Welcome back. This is Captain Amina, from Kano to the clouds, and I'm your host, Zine. If you've just joined us, I highly recommend rewinding to part 1, where we traced Amina's early steps, from wide-eyed wonder to walking through the doors of flight school for the first time. But now, in part 2, we shift altitude. This is where the real headwinds begin, the pressure of training, the setbacks no one talks about, and the resilience it takes to stay in the air when everything's telling you to land. So buckle up, because Captain Amina is about to take us deeper into the journey. Captain Amina, we've spent a lot of time exploring the technical side of aviation, everything from flight controls to navigation and the split-second decisions you make in the cockpit. But I want to take a step back and talk about something that's just as crucial, yet often overlooked. Let's shift our focus to the inner world of a pilot, the mental and emotional landscape that shapes every flight, every landing, every moment in the air. When you're thousands of feet above the ground, surrounded by clouds and sky, what does it really take, mentally and emotionally, to stay balanced up there? How do you keep your mind clear and your emotions steady, especially when the stakes are so high and the world is literally depending on you to get everyone safely to their destination?
That's a really important question. I think a lot of people imagine that being a pilot is all about technical skill, knowing your instruments, following procedures, reacting quickly. And yes, those things are absolutely essential. But what people don't always realize is that flying is as much a mental game as it is a physical or technical one. You have to be able to manage your thoughts, your stress, and your emotions, sometimes for hours on end, without a break. People see pilots and think, discipline, confidence, cool under pressure. And yes, those are the qualities we try to embody every day. But what they don't see is the preparation that goes into building that confidence, or the moments of doubt and vulnerability that happen behind the scenes. Every time I walk through an airport in uniform, I know I'm carrying not just the responsibility of the flight, but also the expectations of everyone who sees me. But what they don't see is the weight we carry behind the smile, behind the announcements. There's a lot that goes on beneath the surface. Worries about weather, about making the right call in an emergency, about being away from family for days or weeks at a time. Sometimes you're dealing with personal challenges, but you have to set those aside and focus on the task at hand, because the safety of hundreds of people depends on your ability to stay present and composed. There's a kind of mental stamina that flying demands, especially when you're often alone with your thoughts for 14 hours. You learn to find moments of calm in the chaos, to ground yourself with routines, and to check in with your own mental health. For me, that means journaling after a flight, meditating in my hotel room, or simply taking a few deep breaths before I step into the cockpit. It's about finding balance, even when the world around you is constantly moving. And that, I think, is one of the most important and most challenging parts of being a pilot.
Was there a time when that really hit you?
Yes. It was during my second year with Emirates. I'd been flying back-to-back international routes, Sydney, Paris, Toronto, non-stop. And one night in my hotel room, I just sat in the dark. Not sad, just blank, like my battery had drained. That's when I realized I was doing everything right, but I wasn't feeling anything.
That sounds incredibly isolating.
It was. So I started therapy, quietly at first, because there's still stigma, especially in our communities. This idea that if you're strong, you don't need help. But therapy became like a pre-flight checklist for my heart. It gave me tools, helped me process not just the pressure, but the loneliness.
That's such an important message, especially for young women listening. When you see someone who looks like you, standing tall in a pilot's uniform, it plants a seed. It tells you that you too can reach for the clouds, that the sky is not just a distant dream, but a real destination. For so many young girls, especially girls of color, seeing representation in aviation can be life-changing. It's more than just a job. It's a symbol of possibility, of breaking barriers that once seemed unbreakable. Did you find others in the aviation world who understood? I imagine it must have felt isolating at first, stepping into a world where so few faces looked like yours. Did you ever wonder if you'd find someone who truly got what you were going through, who could relate to the unique challenges you faced as a black woman in the cockpit?
Eventually, yes. But it took time. In the beginning, I felt like I was navigating a new world, all by myself. There were days when I questioned if I belonged, when the silence in the crew room felt heavy. But slowly, I started to find my people. Sometimes it was just a smile from another woman in uniform, or a nod of recognition in a busy terminal. Those small moments meant everything. I connected with other female pilots online, women from all over the world. The internet became our meeting place, a virtual hangar where we could share our stories and support each other. It was incredible to realize that even though we were separated by oceans and continents, our experiences were so similar. We laughed about the same things, worried about the same challenges, and celebrated each other's victories, big and small. We started messaging, sharing little things, the kind of details only another pilot would understand. Sometimes it was just a quick check-in after a long flight, or a funny meme about airport food. Other times, it was a heartfelt message about a tough day or a word of encouragement before a big exam. Those conversations became a lifeline, a reminder that I wasn't alone in this journey, like how we cope with jet lag, which is something only another pilot truly gets. We'd swap tips about adjusting to new time zones, share our favorite sleep hacks, and commiserate about those 3 a.m. wake-up calls. It's the kind of exhaustion that seeps into your bones, but knowing someone else is out there, wide awake in a hotel room on the other side of the world, makes it a little easier. How we deal with rude passengers too. Sometimes it's just venting about a tough day, or sharing strategies for keeping your cool when someone questions your authority just because you're a woman, or because of the color of your skin. We'd remind each other to stand tall, to remember our training, and to never let anyone make us feel small, or how to reheat jollof rice in a hotel microwave. It sounds silly, but those little rituals, bringing a taste of home with you even when you're thousands of miles away, they matter. They're a way of holding on to your identity, of finding comfort in the familiar, even in the most unfamiliar places, but also the big stuff. Racism, sexism, feeling invisible. We talked about the moments when someone assumed we were flight attendants, or when our competence was questioned before we even spoke. We shared stories of microaggressions, of being the only woman or the only black person in the room. Those conversations were hard, but they were also healing, because suddenly I wasn't carrying that weight alone. Ozesin de disina yoshti.
And you became part of a sisterhood. It sounds like what started as a few online messages grew into something much bigger. A network of women who lift each other up, who celebrate each other's wins and support each other through the tough times. That kind of community can be life-changing, especially in a field where you're often made to feel like an outsider.
Exactly. That saved me. Finding that sisterhood changed everything. Suddenly, I had people who understood, who could finish my sentences, who knew what it felt like to walk into a cockpit and feel both proud and a little bit scared. We became each other's cheerleaders, mentors, and friends. We shared advice, celebrated milestones, and picked each other up after setbacks. It made all the difference, because suddenly, I wasn't the only anymore. I wasn't just a lone voice in a sea of strangers. I was part of a community, a family, a sisterhood that spanned continents and cultures. We were united by our love of flying, but also by our determination to make the skies more welcoming for those who come after us. We knew that every time we stepped into the cockpit, we were opening the door a little wider for the next generation. I was part of a group of women who knew the sky from my perspective. Together, we are changing what it means to be a pilot. We are showing the world and ourselves that there's room for all of us up here. And that's the real power of sisterhood. It lifts you higher than you ever could have flown alone.
You also mentor young women now, right? What kind of questions do they ask?
All sorts. How do I afford flight school? What if I'm not good at math? Do passengers ever freak out when they see you're black? But the real question behind all of them is, and I always say, yes, not only is there space, the industry needs you, your voice, your instincts, your calm.
I love that. Let's talk about leadership. What kind of captain are you?
I lead with clarity. I believe in being calm before being loud. I always say to my crew, communication is survival, and that doesn't just mean radio calls. It means checking in, asking, how's everyone feeling before we board? Because moods fly too.
That's such a thoughtful way to put it. When we talk about authority in the cockpit, it's not just about giving orders or making decisions. It's about presence, confidence, and the ability to communicate clearly, especially when the stakes are high. For many pilots, especially those who are underrepresented in the field, asserting authority can be a nuanced and sometimes challenging process. It's about finding your voice, even when others might question it, and standing firm in your expertise. Have you ever had to assert yourself in a tough cockpit situation? Maybe when the weather suddenly changed, or when a decision had to be made quickly and decisively. For some, these moments are routine, but for others, especially women and people of color in aviation, these situations can carry an extra layer of scrutiny. The ability to assert yourself, to be heard and respected, is crucial, not just for safety, but for building trust among your crew.
Yes. One time, a male co-pilot kept second-guessing my routing decisions. Subtly, not overtly. It wasn't outright confrontation, but I could sense the hesitation in his voice, the way he'd double-check my calls or offer alternative suggestions without being asked. It's a feeling many women in leadership roles know all too well, having your expertise quietly questioned, even when you've proven yourself time and again. But I could feel it. I stayed professional. I reminded myself that my training and experience had prepared me for this moment. Instead of reacting defensively, I focused on the task at hand. I kept my tone calm and my instructions clear, making sure that every decision I made was backed by solid reasoning and data. It's not always easy to keep your composure when you feel undermined, but professionalism is key. Walked him through my decision using flight data. I explained the routing, the weather patterns, and the logic behind each choice. I made sure to involve him in the process, not to prove a point, but to foster collaboration and understanding. Sometimes the best way to assert authority is to lead by example, by being transparent, thorough and inclusive in your decision-making. When we landed, he looked at the printout and said, "You were right. Sorry for doubting." We shook hands. That moment wasn't just about being correct. It was about earning respect through competence and communication. It was a reminder that sometimes authority isn't about being the loudest voice in the room, but about being the most prepared and the most composed. And the next flight, total respect. The dynamic had shifted. There was a new sense of trust and camaraderie in the cockpit. It's moments like these that remind us, asserting authority isn't just about commanding. It's about inspiring confidence, building relationships, and paving the way for those who come after you. Every flight is an opportunity to lead with integrity and to show what true authority looks like.
That must have felt affirming.
It did, because it reminded me that sometimes you don't have to raise your voice to prove your worth. You just have to stand in your truth, calmly, firmly, consistently.
And how do you stay grounded through it all?
I journal every morning, just a few lines. Sometimes I write about a passenger's smile. Other times I write about what I miss, and I pray, not always formally, but in small ways. Gratitude. Every time I land, I say thank you, because no flight should ever feel routine. It's still a miracle every time.
Captain Amina, you've flown across continents, logged thousands of hours, and inspired so many. But I want to ask, what has this career cost you?
That's a big question. It's cost me birthdays, family weddings, the kind of ordinary moments that build a life. Sometimes it's cost me connection with people I love, with home. I've sat in hotel rooms eating room service while my family was celebrating Eid or Christmas. There's always a trade.
That kind of distance. Does it get easier with time?
Not really. You learn to manage it, but it never feels normal. There's a loneliness in this life, a deep, specific one. It's not the kind of loneliness that comes from simply being alone, but rather it's the ache of being surrounded by people and still feeling like you're floating in your own orbit. As a pilot, I spend so many nights in unfamiliar cities, in hotel rooms that all start to look the same after a while. The hum of the air conditioner, the distant sounds of traffic, the glow of city lights outside my window, they all become a kind of white noise, a backdrop to my thoughts. Sometimes I sit on the edge of the bed, suitcase still packed, and wonder if anyone else feels this way. The world moves on outside, but in here, time seems to slow down, and I'm left with my own company. There's a quiet heaviness to it, a sense of being untethered, drifting from place to place, never quite belonging anywhere. It's a loneliness that's hard to explain to people who haven't lived it. A loneliness that's both vast and intimate. Like standing in the middle of a crowded airport and realizing that no one knows your name. But you also build new ways to connect. You learn to reach out, to find comfort in the small rituals that keep you tethered to the people you love. In the quiet moments between flights, I find myself scrolling through old messages, listening to voice notes from friends, or sending a quick text just to say, "I'm thinking of you." These little acts become lifelines, threads that tie me back to home, to family, to the world I sometimes feel so far away from. I've learned that connection doesn't always have to be physical. Sometimes it's a laugh shared over the phone, a photo sent from a new city, or a simple good morning text that reminds me I'm not alone. Even in the loneliest moments, there's a kind of beauty in knowing that someone, somewhere, is thinking of me too. The distance doesn't erase the love, it just changes the way we express it. I've become more intentional about reaching out, about letting people know I care, even if it's just a quick emoji or a funny meme. These small gestures add up, creating a sense of closeness that bridges the miles between us. Video calls, voice notes, these have become my anchors, my way of staying connected to the people who matter most. There's something so comforting about seeing a familiar face, even if it's just pixels on a screen, or hearing a loved one's voice, even if it's through a tiny speaker. I've had entire conversations with my best friend while waiting for a flight, laughing so hard that people around me start to stare. I've recorded voice notes late at night, whispering into my phone so I don't wake the neighbors, just to let someone know I made it safely. Technology has made it possible to shrink the distance, to turn a lonely hotel room into a space filled with laughter and love. Sometimes I'll prop my phone up on the nightstand and have dinner together with my family, each of us in a different city, but sharing the same meal and the same stories. It's not the same as being there in person, but it's enough to remind me that I'm still part of something bigger than myself. These moments of connection are what keep me grounded, what help me navigate the ups and downs of this life on the move. Sometimes I'll land, and my mom will text, "Are you safe? Have you eaten?" It's such a simple message, but it means everything to me. No matter where I am in the world, no matter how far I've traveled, those words are a reminder that someone is waiting for me, worrying about me, loving me from afar. It's a ritual now. As soon as the plane touches down and I switch my phone off airplane mode, I look for that message. It's like a thread that connects me back to home, to the people who know me best, even when I'm exhausted from a long flight, even when I'm feeling overwhelmed by the constant movement. That text is a moment of stillness, a pause in the chaos. It's a reminder that I'm not alone, that I'm cared for, that I matter to someone. Sometimes I'll send a quick reply. "I'm safe, Mom. I've eaten. Love you." And in that exchange, I feel a little less adrift, a little more anchored. And just that makes me feel grounded again. In a life that's always in motion, where the scenery is constantly changing and the only constant is the sky, these small moments of connection are what keep me steady. They remind me of who I am, where I come from, and the people who love me. Loneliness may be a part of this journey, but so is love, so is connection. So is the quiet strength that comes from knowing I'm never truly alone. Even on the loneliest nights, I carry those messages with me, little reminders that home is never as far away as it seems.
Do you ever question if it was all worth it?
In the hard moments, yes, but then I remember the letters I get from girls who saw me on TV or read an article. They say, I didn't know someone like me could be a pilot. That reminder, it's priceless. It makes every sacrifice feel like part of a much bigger picture.
When you reflect on your journey, with all its twists and turns, what is the one message you hope young women listening today will carry with them? What wisdom, what encouragement, what spark do you want to ignite in their hearts as they navigate their own paths?
I want every young woman listening to know, deep in her bones, that her voice matters, even when it trembles, even when it shakes, even when it feels like the world is too loud for her to be heard. Your voice is powerful, not because it is always steady, but because it is yours. There will be moments when you feel nervous, when your words catch in your throat, when you wonder if anyone is really listening. But I promise you, your voice can move mountains, even if it quivers. Speak up, even if your heart is pounding. Share your ideas, your dreams, your questions, your doubts. The world needs your perspective, your creativity, your truth. Don't let fear of imperfection silence you. Every time you speak, you are practicing courage. Every time you share, you are making space for someone else to do the same. I want you to remember always that you are not too much. You are not too loud, too passionate, too ambitious, too emotional, too curious, too bold, or too quiet. You are not too anything. You are exactly enough. There will be people who try to shrink you, who tell you to tone it down, to fit in, to be less. But you do not have to make yourself smaller to make others comfortable. You do not have to apologize for taking up space, for having big dreams, for wanting more. You are worthy of every opportunity, every joy, every success, every bit of love and respect. Stand tall in who you are. Celebrate your uniqueness. The world is richer because you are in it, just as you are. And if you ever feel like you don't fit in, like you're too loud, too soft, too different, remember that those very things that set you apart are your superpowers. Maybe you're the one who asks the questions no one else dares to ask. Maybe you're the one who brings laughter to a silent room, or the one who listens deeply when others need to be heard. Maybe your style, your music, your ideas, your way of seeing the world is unlike anyone else's. That is your gift. Don't hide it. Don't dim your light to blend in. Shine, even if you stand out. The world needs your difference. The world needs your authenticity. The world needs you exactly as you are. I want you to know that you are just right as you are. You don't have to change yourself to be worthy of love, respect, or success. You don't have to straighten your hair, change your voice, hide your feelings, or pretend to be someone you're not. You are beautiful, inside and out, in your natural state. Embrace your quirks, your passions, your dreams, your heritage, your story. Look in the mirror and see someone who is enough, someone who is deserving, someone who is powerful. Practice self-love, even on the days when it feels hard. Be gentle with yourself. Celebrate your wins, no matter how small. Forgive yourself for your mistakes. You're growing, learning, becoming, and that is more than enough. And finally, I want you to remember that there's no timeline for dreams. There is no expiration date on your hopes, no deadline for your ambitions. You don't have to have it all figured out by a certain age. You don't have to follow anyone else's path. Life is not a race. It's a journey, and it's yours to shape. Start when you can. Start where you are, but start. Take the first step, even if it's small. Write down your goals, even if they seem far away. Pack your bags for the journey, even if you don't know exactly where you're going. Trust that every experience, every setback, every triumph is part of your story. You're allowed to change your mind, to try new things, to take detours, to rest. Your dreams are valid no matter how long they take to bloom. So give yourself permission to grow at your own pace. Surround yourself with people who believe in you, who lift you up, who remind you of your worth. And when you doubt yourself, because we all do sometimes, remember that you are not alone. There is a community of women, past and present, cheering you on, rooting for you, holding space for you to rise. So go after your dreams, unapologetically. The world is waiting for what only you can give, and I can't wait to see all that you become. He passed a few years ago. It's strange how the absence of someone can feel so present, like a shadow that lingers in the corners of every room you enter. My father's memory is woven into the fabric of my life, stitched into every major milestone and quiet moment of reflection. Even now, years after he's gone, I find myself reaching for the phone to share good news, or looking for his face in a crowd when I achieve something I know would have made him proud. His laughter, his wisdom, and his unwavering belief in me are things I carry with me every single day. But before that, he was proud, very proud. I could see it in the way his eyes lit up whenever someone mentioned my name, or the way he would stand a little taller when talking about my accomplishments. There was a quiet pride in his voice, a kind of joy that radiated from him and made everyone around him smile. He was the kind of father who celebrated every victory, no matter how small, and who always encouraged me to reach higher, to dream bigger, and to never let fear hold me back. His pride wasn't just about what I did, but about who I was becoming. He used to tell people, "My daughter flies machines bigger than lorries." I remember the way he would say it, his chest puffed out with pride, his voice carrying just a hint of playful exaggeration. To him, it wasn't just about the size of the aircraft, it was about the size of the dream. In our community, becoming a pilot was almost unheard of, especially for a woman. But my father never saw limits, only possibilities. He would gather his friends and neighbors, and with a wide grin, he'd recount stories of my training, my first solo flight, and the day I earned my wings. He made sure everyone knew that his daughter was reaching for the skies, and in doing so, he inspired others to believe in their own children's dreams. Let's talk about family for a moment. Family is more than just the people you share a home with. It's the foundation that shapes who you are and who you become. In our house, family meant support, encouragement, and unconditional love. It meant late-night conversations about the future, shared meals filled with laughter, and the comfort of knowing that no matter what happened outside those walls, you always had a place where you belonged. My father was the heart of our family, the one who brought us together and reminded us of the importance of sticking together through thick and thin. He taught me that success is sweeter when it's shared, and that the greatest achievements are the ones that bring your loved ones along for the journey. With everything I have achieved and the sacrifices I've taken, I know deep down that he was proud, not just of the titles or the accolades, but of the person I've become. He saw the hard work, the sacrifices, and the determination it took to get here. He understood the challenges I faced, the barriers I broke, and the courage it took to keep going when things got tough. And even though he's no longer here to see it all, I feel his pride every time I step into the cockpit, every time I mentor a young girl who dreams of flying, and every time I look back at how far I've come. My father's pride lives on in me, in the legacy he left behind, and in the dreams he helped me chase. And for that, I am forever grateful. That was his way of understanding it. He didn't know all the aviation jargon, but he knew his daughter had done something remarkable.
That's beautiful. What about your mum?
Oh, she still calls me Captain Amina like it's my full name, every single phone call. She's my biggest cheerleader, but also the one who keeps me grounded. She'll say, "Fly all you want, just don't forget to eat."
That's real love right there. So what does home mean to you now?
Home is less of a place now, and more of a feeling. It's my culture, my accent, the songs I hum when I'm anxious. It's in my mother's voice and in the smell of jollof rice. Sometimes home is just a moment, sitting in silence, staring out the cockpit window, and feeling connected to everything.
Have you thought about what comes after flying?
More and more lately, I want to open a flight academy for girls in West Africa, somewhere rural, somewhere like where I came from, where a little girl can see a runway and not feel like it's someone else's dream. I also want to write about my experiences.
There are so many stories buried in silence. I want to bring them to light. That's legacy work. Do you ever imagine your last flight, the one where you hang up the wings?
I do. I imagine myself landing softly, walking down the jet bridge, and just looking back one last time at the aircraft, whispering thank you, not out of sadness, but gratitude, because I got to live my dream.
If your younger self, that little girl under the water tank, could see you now, what do you think she'd say?
She'd probably blink, wide-eyed, and say, "We really did it." And I'd smile and say, "Yes, we did, and it was worth it."
And that brings us to the end of part 2 of Captain Amina, From Kano to the Clouds. Captain Amina, hearing about the challenges you faced, the long nights, the failures, the moments you nearly walked away, it's truly humbling. Your honesty is a gift. In part 3, we'll climb even higher as Amina steps into the commercial airline world, faces new pressures at 35,000 feet, and discovers what it really means to lead. If this story has moved you, please subscribe, share, and join us for the next part of this incredible flight. I'm Zine, and you've been listening to Captain Amina, From Kano to the Clouds. Until next time.